12 or 1:30 EST, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Today we start the first in our series about ProcessMaker 3.3.0, and we're going to start off with one of our really cool new improvements, our improvements for our audit tools. So I'm here today with Edwin Paredes, and he's going to go ahead and show you a demo and give you a little introduction about how our audit tools work. But first of all, I'm going to start off with a short introduction about all of the new improvements and features in 3.3.0. So let me go ahead and get started. So let me start with our new improvements. So one of the biggest improvements is that ProcessMaker is now fully compatible with PHP 7, which means really big jumps in the security and speed for our application. Another improvement is end user case reassignment. So what we've done with this version is we've added a new process permission that allows end users to reassign their cases without needing any supervisor's permission. This makes it really easy and convenient for users to reassign their cases. And then the thing that we're going to cover today is our improved logs and traceability. So let me go ahead and move on to our new features. One of our biggest new features is the Process Documenter plugin. So all you simply need to do is press a button on your process map to start creating your documentation. And then after that, all you need to do is click on each process element to add documentation that will automatically generate a complete polished document to download and share with your colleagues. Another really cool new feature we have with this version is the Google Authentication plugin, which allows administrators to set up and sync accounts between Google and ProcessMaker, so you don't need to create accounts twice, and end users only need to log in one time. And that's it for ProcessMaker 3.3.0. So now I'm going to hand it over to Edwin to give you a short introduction about audit tools, and then he'll get started with the demo.
Thank you, Summer. Hello, my name is Edwin Paredes, and I work in product management here at ProcessMaker. Okay, to start with this presentation. Here's ProcessMaker Log Basics. And why logs are important in ProcessMaker? Well, they first are important to troubleshoot our issues, and besides that, to track the changes made by other users. This, of course, are related to debugging and auditability. Some of the logs we have in ProcessMaker are the following. The change logs. The change logs are meant to record the changes made to variables or case data by users. This is related, of course, to cases that run in a process. The case history. The case history is meant to record how the flow or how the case has moved through the flow in the process. The audit logs, on the other hand, covers the changes that were made under the admin and configuration section of the application. And the standard logs or system logs, which are the last one, are the one that records all those elements or transactions that were made in the background behind ProcessMaker. This, of course, are one of the most important ones because, let me go to the next slide. Those logs come in a format which is compatible with SIEM, which can be, of course, imported into other tools that are specialized in reading logs, and of course, well, making reports and all that cool stuff that other tools will do as well. Some of the tools in the list will be to mention would be Splunk, for example, or Logly. We're going to use Splunk in the demo just for visualizing these logs. All right. So what's new? Regarding logs, what's new in ProcessMaker has to do with actions by email in change logs. Then the standard logs are downloadable, which was not possible in prior versions of ProcessMaker, and a way to define the severity of these logs, which is also related to standard logs. With that being said, let's move to the demo. All right. this demo purposes, a very simple process was created. This process consists on one task that creates a request, one task that is supposed to handle the approval of the request. So for example, let's talk about a leave of absence. Someone in this task will request for a leave of absence on a certain date, and then its manager will decide to approve it or not. And if he decides to approve it, then a notification will be triggered, and then someone in human resources will process that leave. Otherwise, the request will be denied, and only a message or an email will be sent to the requester. That's how the process is designed. One additional thing to mention is that the second task, the approval task, has been set up with actions by email. It means that the user, the approver, will receive an email into its inbox to decide whether to approve it or not, directly from the email, without accessing to ProcessMaker. All right. The goals for this process is, first, see how changes logs are recording the actions by email notification options, and second, to see which of these intermediate email events were triggered while running the process. Let's start with the example. For that, I'll move to the Home tab. I'll create a new case under this process. This process is very simple. It only contains one date field, let's say for today, and a comment. Let's put something like, please approve my request. All right, I'm saving it, and this will trigger one email as well as moving the process forward. All right, so now I received the email, which corresponds to the approval task. For my email, I can decide whether to approve or decline it. For this demo, let's just approve it. Okay, so the approval has been processed. Meanwhile, let's go back to our inbox. While the request is being processed. Okay, so the approval has been submitted successfully. And for this demo purposes, I just assign myself to every single task, so I have to switch between users. But if we check at the process map, we'll see that the request was created. It was approved in the actions by email, and now it's being processed in the human resources task. But now, what we're here for is for the logs. Let's go to the change log. The change log has been improved in order to record the actions that were completed from emails. Besides that, in the last part of the header, we added the from source or the source of the action. For example, in web, it will read as web application. For actions by email, it will read as action by email. If the application has been completed from mobile, then what it will say here is, well, mobile. And now let's go to the case history. I want to show the case history here because we made a very small improvement, which was really important to our clients, which is add the proper name of the email event. Let me go back to the process map. From this task to this task, we see that one of the email events, intermediate email events, were triggered, which is this one, approval notification. And now it's reading properly with a proper name under the case history. Those were our improvements at the case level, regarding changelog and case history. Now let's move to the next part. Improvements that are related to audit logs and standard logs. All right. This section can be found under the admin tab, logs. The audit logs has its own UI in which, well, users can navigate and search for information. And what we added in this version is the log file section, a menu that allows users to download both the ProcessMaker standard logs and the audit logs. Both are now coming in the SIM log format. In that sense, both can be imported into other tools. Multiple ones can be selected. If downloaded, they all will be zipped in a single file. I'm not going to do that for now. All I want to do is show you how the logs look like. This is how our standard logs looks like. It's hard to read from a plain text. That's why we recommend using one of these tools that brings, well, a better or an improved visibility of these elements, of these logs. Well, they also add some functionalities like searching and filtering. This is the standard logs that I imported into Splunk, just to give you an example of how it looks like. Well, this is one of the main improvements that have been added to ProcessMaker 2.0. Besides that, we found that there was a need to grant more power to our standard logs. For that reason, we added these three parameters: the login level, the logs location, and the logs max files, which is the files rotation in terms of logs. The main one, or the most important one I'm going to mention in this demo, is the login level. Standard logs in ProcessMaker record different operations from debug to errors, critical, or well, different severity levels. In a development environment, we might want to have all this turned on, but in a production environment, we might not need to have debug information. That's because logs consume a lot of disk space. And in that sense, we might want to have only the logs set to error, critical, alert, and emergency. That's what this login level parameter is for. This login level parameter can be configured in one of these levels, from debug to emergency, and it's going to record all the elements starting from this number. For example, if we set the level to info, then my log will be populated with all the information from info to emergency. In a production environment, it is convenient to set it to error, so my log will be populated from all information, from all the logs from error to emergency. Let's check how this works. Right? So this information or this configuration needs to be done in the ini file. That's because this is the global configuration of ProcessMaker. I'm currently recording everything. So let's just close it and see how my logs are being populated. If you take a look at my logs, it's recording from errors to info. That's because I just created some errors previously, and then we created some info records when we were started the case. Let's set it to record errors only. All right, so I'm changing the value to error, saving it, closing. Now I'm looking to my logs. Now it won't log anything unless I create an error. For that, I'm going to make a very simple change to my form. Let me go back to the process, edit my form, and to generate the error, we'll pick a suggest field. And I don't really care about naming it. Just want to create an error. Let's put some query to a table that, of course, doesn't exist in my application. Maybe from not table. Okay, so this table doesn't exist in my application, in my workspace. So of course this suggest field will not work. Let's save it, close it. Let's start a new case. I'll start a new case in the same process. But now I'll try to generate some errors here. For that, I'll try to look for some values in messages field, which of course will fail because my trigger is not running correctly. So now if I go back to my file, I can see that some errors were added into my log. And well, that's how basically the application works like. With this, I have explained what the improvements were for change log, case history, audit logs, and standard logs. Well, thank you for joining here today. Thank you for following me. I'll now move to summary.
Thanks, Edwin, for the great demo. So while we wrap up the webinar, please feel free to submit any questions that you've had. And while you guys are typing up your questions, let me tell you about some of the upcoming webinars we have. So just give me a minute while I work on my screen, and we will get to your questions one by one. Okay, so our upcoming webinars. All right, so the next one we have coming up is next year, and it's about our workflow documentation with our Process Documenter plugin. So this is the second in the series about ProcessMaker 3.3.0, and this will teach you how to use the Process Documenter plugin, and you'll see everything that it can do. Next up is Simple Sign-In with the Google Authentication plugin, and we'll show you how this plugin works, how it allows you to sync your users between Google and ProcessMaker, so you only have to create accounts one time and users only have to sign in one time. And then after that, we've got our quick and easy case reassignment where we'll show you how end users can use process permissions to reassign their own cases. So for all of our webinars, feel free to visit www.processmaker.com to see all of our upcoming webinars as well as our previously recorded webinars.
All right. So the first question is, could you please tell us the logs to query the tools to query the logs? The tool is named Splunk. There are others as well. Let me go back to the document. Hold a second. Splunk is one of those tools that can read this SIM log format. There are other examples as well. I picked Splunk. This is an area because there's a free version that allows me to read a reduced number of logs. All right, next question is there any performance issue if we activate logs? Well, each operation that is adding some load to the application will, of course, have its impact in the performance. However, the impact for logs is not so big or it's not significant. Next one, what type of events are stored in the audit logs? In the audit logs main purpose is to store the changes that were made under the admin tab and the configuration. So for example, let's go back to here. All right. So well, one of my first elements is the action to enable audit logs, of course. And as I've been saying, it's going to record every change that's made under the settings and the design as well. Well, As you can see, there are some records like create Dynaforms and all that. The audit log's main purpose is let's remind that it is to record the changes that were made by users that are of course not related to the case. The ones related to the case are in case data. The case data are the change logs and the case history. Let me go back to the presentation. All right. So what about log file rotation? Does it affect this space usage? Well, the main idea of file rotation is to delete the files created by logs that has passed a due date. So, for example, if the logs max file, or in this case the file rotation has been set for 5 days, then we will end up with 5 files, one of which corresponding to 1 day. If there is a new file being created in the 6th day, then the first one will be then deleted from the server, from the disk. How do I configure the log to be synchronized with the correct time zone? But let's remember that logs are recorded in the log system file. So right now I'm hold on a second. All right. So this date. This date here. It is 1/16 in my logs. Going back to my application. I'm working right now at American New York, and my hold on a second. All right. So it is now picking the system, the server log, just because the system logs are created at the server level. So it is, sorry, it is correct. It is in the right one. I'm sorry. Now it's already picking the time zone I already applied. I wanted to show that, but it's already configured. So that's more or less how the file's been configured. It's according to your time zone here.
Okay, thanks, Edwin, for answering the questions, and thank you, audience, for coming and participating in our webinar. If you have any additional questions, you can feel free to contact us at training@processmaker.com. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.